Okay.
Hello, I'm Alan Begner for Goat Club.
Hello, Alan. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you.
I'm Debbie.
Okay, Debbie, thank you.
Hello, I'm Jill Waddell. I'm representing Rescue Dog Games.
Your desk doesn't have enough room, so.
Could you hear me, Debbie?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Good. Okay.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you so much.
I don't know why this audio.
Jerry, I can hear you. Your audio is working.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, that's weird.
Okay. Do I ever mute it again? What? Ever push mute again? I don't. Okay.
Hello, Jake.
Hi, hey, Debbie, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Okay, I'm really trying to figure out how to get my screen organized here.
I just talked to Sean. He's signing on now. He got a job that took a while longer than he expected.
Oh, thank you, Jim. I don't exactly know what we would have done without him tonight.
Hi, Debbie. Are you able to hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for it. We were trying to figure it out. This is Osman, and I'm sitting together with Mehmet at the next room, Muhammed Erkek. We are joining for Goat Restaurant along with Alan Begner. And if you have any questions, we are here. We are listening in, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you. The NPU agenda is, you can reach it by looking at under chat. There are two documents at the very beginning of that. And we're going to be following the April final PDF. Hey, Jack. You're on mute.
Hey, Debbie, sorry, I was muted.
We're just waiting for Sean. There he is.
I'm here. Sorry about that.
Thank you. And I am making you a co-host, Sean.
All right.
Okay, it looks like we have a quorum. I'm going to call the meeting of NPU F to order. This is the Monday, April 20th meeting. I want to welcome you all for being at our very first remote NPU meeting. I'm joined tonight by Kay Stevenson. If Kay can say hello and wave. Doug Young, are you on the online?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
There he is.
Oh,
Good.
thanks, Doug. Carol Shinara, who is acting as our secretary tonight, and she's going to be assisted by Aruna Namasinhan, who's going to co-secretary. We know this is going to be a little bit more complicated than usual. And then our new friend, Sean Brown from Piedmont Heights, who's going to be our technical expert for the evening. I want to thank the Department of City Planning for providing access to this Zoom account. If this works out, we're going to be using this meeting for our meetings until the large group meeting restrictions are lifted.
Great.
Sean is going to give us a quick overview of the software for those who have not used Zoom before. Sean, do you want to give us just a kind of a quick walkthrough of how to manage through the screen?
You bet. And I acknowledge, that we got a wide variety of skill sets from experts to first timers. So on your Zoom window, there is a bottom pane. If you have your mouse over it, if you're on a laptop or a desktop, and you can see some icons in the bottom, participants, chat, for example. And if you click those, for example, participants, you'll see first of all, you'll see a list of names on the right. If you highlight your own name, you can rename yourself. I don't think we're enforcing this. Debbie, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we encourage those to rename, to their first and last names, along with any identifiers, such as if they're a NPU chair or any other or community. There's
It'd be helpful
also,
if we know your neighborhood.
yes. So in fact, that prompts me, I should be doing that right after this. There's also a yes or no button, which we are going to use for voting purposes. For those who are eligible to vote in the meeting, that automatically tallies it up in the meeting for us. Other than that, we encourage people to stay muted unless they're actively talking, just in case there's some extraneous background noise that will filter into the meeting. Debbie, have I left anything out?
No, I think we're good.
How to ask a question?
Sure. Oh, yes. Sean, tell us how to ask a question.
Yes. So the couple ways. One, there is, so I mentioned that yes, no button in the participants list. If you click more, there's also it says clap. It's kind of a hands raised that can be a signifier. You can also, I mentioned there's that chat functionality that if you're trying to get acknowledged, you can, type your name, or not type your name, put a message in there that you have a comment. Just like in the regular NPU meeting, we're going to let the meeting organizer, Debbie in this case, kind of recognize you to speak. And I guess we'll kind of take it from there and see how well that goes.
Okay. So just a few preliminary things that we always like to share at the beginning of our NPU meeting. Residents of NPU F may vote on any issues unless they have a financial interest in the application or the motion. So if you're here because you have an application, you can vote on everything else except your own application. If you're not an NPU resident, please do not vote, but we are using the honor system tonight. Because we're using this yes/no system, it will be a way for us to kind of keep track of who it's appropriate to vote and who's not. Our meetings follow a town hall format. Most of our votes will be taken using the yes/no votes of voice votes, as Sean just described. If you're interested in receiving updates from the NPU in a more detailed agenda with links to the applications prior to this meeting, if you would just send a note with your email address via chat, and Sean just described that to you, we'll catch that and I'll add you to our mailing list. And we promise you that we won't inundate you with emails. There are no restrictions on speaking or asking questions at this meeting. All we ask is that you're respectful, your comments are germane to the agenda item, and you do not dominate the conversation. You can ask a question either via chat or by raising your hand. And there are two agendas tonight. As I said a little bit before we started the meeting, you can find those two agendas under the chat tab. The first is the full NPU agenda. It's the PDF, NPU F April final PDF. And a subset of that agenda is the consent agenda for April. Those are applications that generally the NPU does not require conversation. And we will take all of those applications with one motion and to resolve them. And as you can see on the consent agenda, there are a lot of special events that are on that on the consent agenda this month. The first thing that we're going to do, and we're going to practice voting, is to approve the minutes for the January and February 2020 meetings. They were posted on the NPUF website, and a link was sent to those that were on the NPUF mailing list. Are there any changes or corrections to either the January or February minutes? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the January minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor, please, we're going to use the yes and no buttons under participants. Please click yes if you're in favor of the motion and no if you are not. Has everybody voted? Still voting?
I had a question that I typed in the chat, but there wasn't an answer. Can more than one person vote from one laptop, or do you have to be on a different device?
No, Catherine, Sean here. I think I did respond to you. Sorry if that wasn't immediately visible.
I see it now. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'm kind of calling this as we go, but I think if, again, this is an honor system, if that is the case, especially if the vote's close, maybe if you put in chat, we can manually add that total. We only have, I think, 73 participants as of now, so I don't think that'll get too out of hand. So to answer your question directly, and Debbie, if you concur,
yeah,
can we just...
That's fine.
And Susan Coy, I do see her message here. I think the thumbs up or thumbs down would be fine too. I'm looking for that. It looks like a couple of people are having that issue. For those that are having the problem of seeing the thumbs up, thumbs down, if you click participants towards the bottom, and sorry, I don't know exactly what it is if we were on a mobile device.
I see it now. There it is.
Okay.
A menu pops up. Thank you.
You bet.
There are 32 people that have voted in favor of the motion, and I have not checked chat to see if there are any others, or is there anyone on the phone whose votes I should be adding? If not, there are no votes against, so that motion does carry. 32 votes. Okay. I'm clearing all. Is there a motion to approve the February minutes, or are there any changes to the February minutes and a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay. All those in favor, let's try this again. If you're in favor, please check yes, or if you're not in favor, please check no. Has everyone voted? I see 30 people have voted in favor and none against, so the motion carries. I have one calendar announcement to make, and this is on the consent agenda. If you haven't pulled that up, you might want to take note of this. On Thursday, April 23rd at 10:30, there will be a NPU University meeting, a conference call for seniors. And this is to talk about the use of virtual meetings and to help take the intimidation factor out of the concept of virtual meetings for our senior neighbors. So if you're interested or curious about that, the information is on the consent agenda. We're going to begin now with reports from the city departmental representatives. Chief DeBerry, we'll start off with you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jerry DeBerry. I am the new assigned battalion chief here at Station 15 in Midtown. Chief Johnson, who formerly or previously held this position, has been promoted to assistant chief. He still works on this ship, so we're still working together. But I'll be the new battalion chief on this ship, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you in the future. Just a couple of things I want to go over this evening is just to let you know that currently our administration is going around and doing welfare checks on a portion of our citizens. Most of these are citizens that are what we call super users of the system or repeat customers that may have special needs. We're doing things like answering questions as far as providing accurate information on COVID-19 and trying to reduce some unknown fears that may be that they've heard either through the media or something like that. We're also checking on needs such as food and other well-being needs with these citizens, and then providing contact information for any needs that may arise. So that's kind of one of the things that has taken place over this last week and will continue to do moving forward. Also, I just want to reassure everyone that the fire department is, we're taking care of ourselves. We're taking necessary precautions while here at work in the fire stations and while we're out interacting with the citizens, taking appropriate PPE means, going by the CDC recommendations, but we're still answering calls. We have seen a reduction in calls, but a lot of that is contributed to just there's fewer people out and about. And so that has actually provided a little extra safety for us too. There's one area that we've made some changes recently just due to the ongoing circumstances. We have been blessed with a lot of offers for donations for food and different things like that for the fire station. There is a process in place currently that we are having to use to vet these things just because we're working under a state of emergency. And I'll be more than happy to provide that information if anybody's interested. Everything is going through the Atlanta Fire Foundation right now, and they're providing all the vetting for all of that, and then it's being distributed to the fire stations after that. So I can provide that information. Also, I just want to thank everyone for all the love and care. I'm new to the Midtown area. I came from the south side of the city. But the appreciation and support that we've gotten from all the community has just been overwhelming for me, and I'm sure it has for other people too. And I just want to tell everybody thank you for that. We're still trudging along, and we're all gonna beat this and move forward, hopefully better than we were before. You may notice if you've been to the stations, we have changed our policy for visitors in the fire station, and that includes our own family members. We currently don't allow any visitors in the fire station. However, if there is an emergency or need, we will still take care of the citizens' needs in any fashion that needs to be addressed. So hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to relax that some. Again, we're like everybody else, we're following the CDC guidelines. So that's really all I have tonight. That's our primary focus right now, other than taking care of our emergencies. I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Does anyone have any questions for the chief? Does anyone want to test our raising hand function or just wants to wave? Thank you. Great. Okay, I don't see anyone that's indicated that they have a question. Chief, thank you for joining us. We look forward to meeting you in person.
Absolutely. Look forward to meeting you also. And y'all have a safe evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Please stay safe.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Is there anyone here from Zone 2 or Zone 6? Okay, I don't hear anyone. The Fulton County Prosecutor's Office. This is a very long list of participants, and I just want to make sure I capture everyone. MARTA Police. Bureau of Housing and Code Compliance. I think I saw Officer Jeter sign in.
That's correct. Officer Jeter with the City of Atlanta Code Enforcement. I'm here, present. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to speak with you all. Code enforcement has pretty much scale back some of the services that we're offering. We're trying to get most of the complaints that we're receiving to comply through voluntary compliance. The NPU stats for the month of April, we only had 25 cases, with one of them being considered highly hazardous. And as always, you guys can report any cases via the ATL app. And if there's any questions that I can answer pertaining to some properties, I'd be more than happy to take them down right now.
Does anyone have any questions or anything that they'd like to address with Officer Jeter? I vaguely hear someone, but I'm not hearing the question.
I think that was Lynn DeWitt. Lynn, can you get closer to your microphone?
I'm sorry. I think I made a mistake, but I'm listening.
Okay.
Thanks, Lynn. We're all learning.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Officer Jeter, I did get the 3-month report from Deidre Bryant and sent them out to the neighborhoods for their information, and we do appreciate receiving those.
Okay, we appreciate you guys too.
Okay, great. You stay safe as well.
Okay, you too. Thanks.
All right.
Have a nice night.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from Public Works? Watershed Management. Is our friend Spence Peck here? Mr. Peck? No. Okay. And anyone from the Officer of the Solicitor? Okay. Finally, is there anyone else here that wants to speak on behalf of the city? The next section will be elected officials. Okay. Anyone from Councilmember Ide's office that would like to speak?
Hey, this is Lance Orchid from Councilmember Ide's office. I don't really have an update, but just wanted to let you know that I'm here.
Lance, in light of the governor's announcement today, is it your understanding that our mayor can or cannot?
We are trying to figure that out, and hopefully I'll have an answer for you shortly. I think the mayor, right after the governor made his announcement, which, I mean, in my personal, and this is not a city opinion, seems like a death wish, announced that she's pulling together an advisory committee to look into it. But I don't know if we'll be precluded or not. I know when she first put the lockdown shelter in place order in, that said she had to sort of fight the governor to be able to do that. I don't have an answer, but let me see if I can find something from the law department before this ends.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Lance? We're glad you're back, Lance. Thank you.
Thanks. It's good to be back. Happy to be here.
Is there anyone else that's representing an elected official that would like to speak tonight? Okay. We have no presentations this evening, but there is a planner's report. Doug?
Good evening, everybody. This is Doug Young from the City of Atlanta's Department of City Planning. I am the NPU F planner assigned for you all. I'm also the Assistant Director of Historic Preservation in the Office of Design. A couple quick announcements. Some of this you might already know from your interactions with other city staff, but the City of Atlanta has stood up a full digital permitting process that can be used right now via email and Dropbox and OneDrive kind of setup. If you go to the Department of City Planning's homepage, there's a COVID-19 sort of bulletin update, and that gets changed periodically as new developments occur with our processes or other kinds of changes. So right now we are processing a whole variety of building permits. And that includes permits in the city's historic districts, SAP, related items, what have you. We are still on hold for the cases that involve public hearings. That includes zoning review board cases, BZA, Board of Zoning Adjustment cases, Urban Design Commission cases, and Tree Conservation Commission cases. But we are looking forward to getting back in business on that respect as well. And I believe those are the announcements I have at this point, Debbie.
Okay. Thank you. And then you're going to help us out on some of the legislation towards the end, right?
That's correct.
Good. Okay. Neighborhood and committee reports. Lindridge Martin Manor.
Yes, needless to say, our spring fling event that was supposed to take place this past weekend has been postponed. We'll reschedule when we find out it's safe. Also, the South Fork Conservancy had to postpone its creek rising, which was cancel its creek rising, which was going to take place on Thursday, but South Fork will hold a raffle with great prizes in May. And so you go on to South Fork Conservancy's website and more information will be there soon.
Great, thank you. Morningside Lennox Park, anything to report? Apparently not. Piedmont Heights.
Yeah, we are very, very lucky that Atlanta Spirits Works Distillery is making hand sanitizer now, and they donated a bunch to the Civic Association. We have passed out a good bit of that to several of the restaurants and other businesses in the area, and we hope to get more. They have it for sale also for anybody that's interested. Thank you.
If someone's interested in receiving it, what do they do? Where do they go?
We sent an email to residents of, or excuse me, to members of Piedmont Heights Civic Association, initially asking if anybody was in dire need of hand sanitizer to get in touch with me or with our treasurer, and we'll make arrangements to give them small quantities. They have to furnish their own receptacle for that. As far as sales go, ASW is open from 12 to 7 p.m. and you can buy it at their store at the Spirits Works.
Oh, cool.
And Jim, did I understand that for every bottle or whatever the container is that you buy from them, they're donating an equal amount to medical facilities?
Medical facilities and first responders, yes, they are. They are also donating on a weekly basis to our the fire station that services our area and where they are. We also took some by the fire station, Station 29 also.
That's very cool. Thanks, Jim. Virginia Highlands Civic Association.
Debbie, it's Lance again. I just got off the phone with someone from the law department, and my understanding is correct that we don't really know yet that the panel is looking at whether the city will be precluded, but the thinking is that most likely the governor's order will preclude the city from taking actions on businesses that are enumerated. So gyms, beauty shops, tattoo parlors, if those businesses would like to open up. But we'll hope to have a full answer on that by tomorrow.
Great, thank you. Okay, Virginia Highlands Civic Association, any report?
Yeah, like everyone
only-
else, Summerfest has been postponed. We don't have a new date yet, but we're looking at the fall, possibly in November. Jack, did you have something else?
No, just that point alone. So thanks to the folks who had volunteered, and we'll see if we can pull it off in the fall. If not, we'll join Inman Park in taking a year's break.
Kay or Jack, do you think they'll change the name of it this year?
Haven't decided. We certainly could. Fall Fest is taken. Winterfest is not.
we might change it to early Fall Fest or something, who knows?
The big challenge is going to be that virtually every other large festival, Dogwood, on and on, are also trying to reschedule. So there aren't unlimited number of weekends. So that will be our big challenge. And it may be reconfigured, it may be smaller, it may be different. We're just going to have to play it by ear and see what we can do.
Right. Great. Thank you. Edmund Park, do you have a report?
Oh, we don't have anything, Debbie. Thank you.
Okay. Anything from the Emory CDC area or Druid Hills?
No, thanks, Debbie. Nothing to report.
Okay. Parks, Trees, and Environment, Jack or Rich? Public safety?
Actually, I'll mention what Spencer would have said had he been able to get on the call tomorrow. If you, from 1:30 to 3, Watershed Management's doing a public presentation on the proposed revisions to the watershed ordinance, which actually, excuse me, to the stormwater ordinance, which really mostly address commercial applications. But if you want to get on, you can get on. It's free. It's actually their brown bag lunch, but virtually. So you'll have to bring your own lunch, which you had to do anyway. So no difference. But anyway, if you're interested in the stormwater ordinance, it's something well.
Jack, how do people get the link?
The link is on the Watershed Management page at the City of Atlanta. So go to City of Atlanta government, go to departments, go to Watershed Management. It's on there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Public safety. Jim, is there a public safety report?
Nothing, thanks.
Okay. And I have a very brief chair report. Unusual for me, I know. We received 2 SAPs this month. One was Beltline 20018, which is a request by Mama Latina Cocina to conduct a one-day event on May 5th, which is Cinco de Mayo. They wanted to hold it in their parking lot. The Piedmont Heights neighborhood reviewed the event and noted that the SAP did not address parking and that there was a potential for creating parking problems in that part of the in the residential area and potential pedestrian and customer safety concerns. We sent this information to the city and the response I got back is that it was unclear if the event is even going to take place. And then I received a second SAP also on the Beltline. This is for Beltline 20020, a commercial renovation at 442 Plasters to convert a previous catering operation to event space. There's room for 7 parking spaces on site, and the rest the applicant says he'll acquire via lease agreements. Piedmont Heights also reviewed this SAP, and the NPU sent a response to express our concerns that there is no available off-street parking, or on-street for that matter, in the area. And we cited our very recent review of the parking reduction at Woof's, which is also on Plasters, as evidence. They said that they couldn't get any parking to lease for their operations, their expansion. And so we cited that as evidence. And no word back on the status of this SAP review. So I checked again today and haven't heard back from anything. And then the final thing I just wanted to note is that APAB, which is an official City of Atlanta board, has suspended their meetings as required by the executive order of the mayor, suspending all city boards, authorities, commissions, etc. And meetings will resume when City Hall reopens to the public. Any questions about any of that? Okay. We are now ready to move to matters for voting, and we're going to start with the consent agenda. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to see the consent agenda itself, you can go to the top of the chat screen tab. It's the NPU F 2020 consent agenda. We have got a large number of issues on it. Most of them are special events, and what I'd like to do is just go through the special events. They are required to attend the meeting in order for us to make a recommendation. The first is Walk to End Lupus. This is a Class D event scheduled in Piedmont Park, April 25th. Is Terry Edmond here?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, thank you, Terry.
Sure. But we are not going to be holding the event on the 25th.
Pardon me?
We are not going to be holding the event on the 25th because
okay. Have you changed the date?
We just got word back from the park that we can do it on November 21st, but we haven't changed all the permitting yet on it. I have to go to the directors, so that's why I didn't want to skip out on a meeting tonight, but it won't be. It won't be on the 25th, unfortunately.
Great. Thank you. Indigenous House 10, May 17th at Piedmont Park. John Dennis, are you here? The Atlanta Jazz Festival, they've asked to defer to the next month. Sisters by Choice have also asked to defer to the next month. The Atlanta Dogwood Festival, the NPU supported this application. The city just wanted us to be aware that they moved their date from April to August 7th through 9th. They're on the consent agenda so that we can confirm that we're okay with the new date. B Reggae 2020, August 22nd, 23rd.
Yes.
Is there someone, Eric? Okay, thank you, Eric.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. The Strong for Life Superhero 5K.
It's Skip Breezer.
Yeah,
it's Skip Breezer, yes.
Okay, thanks, Skip. The GCA Back to School event.
Hi, Tonette's here.
Hey, Tonette, thank you for coming. The Wine Walk Run 5K on October 17th. Okay, I don't see anyone there. Rescue Dog Games. Jill said that she is here.
I'm here. Hello.
Atlanta March for Melanoma on October 24th.
Hi, Leanna Bennett here.
Hey, Leanna, thank you. Shatterproof Rise Up Against Addiction 5K Walk Run.
Yes, Kat Thomas on, also representing AIDS Walk Atlanta Music Festival.
Okay, that one is, thank you, Kat. That the AIDS Walk is not on the consent agenda, so we'll catch up with you later. And then Heather Baker, Autism Speaks, Georgia 5K.
I'm here, thank you.
Great, thank you. We have 4 variances on the consent agenda. V19-230, V19-231. Both of those are being deferred at the request of the applicant, as well as V2027 at 927 St. Charles, which is also being deferred at the request of the applicant. And the last one is V2056, which is 1512 Piedmont Avenue. The applicant advised Piedmont Heights that they have withdrawn their application. They did give me a call and said that they may not be able to withdraw. They may need to go through the process, but our process for withdrawals would be to deny without prejudice, and that's the recommendation on the consent agenda. Are there Is there anyone here that would like to be taken off the consent agenda so that their application can be heard as a regular part of the agenda? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, removing 2 special events, and that's the Indigenous House 10 and the Wine Walk Run 5K. Those 2 would be removed, but everything else would be approved.
So moved.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, we're now going to vote. Please use either the yes, no buttons. Those in favor, please click yes. Those opposed, please click no.
Debbie, what are the yes, no buttons?
Under the list of participants.
Thank you.
Could you find them?
Yeah,
You
thank
got
you.
them? Okay. Anyone else need help in finding the yes, no buttons? Has everyone had a chance to vote? Is there anyone that's voting on the chat? Or is on the phone and just wants to register register their vote? Okay. And I'm going to close the vote. The vote is 31 in favor, 0 opposed, and I see there's one under the more. Well,
Debbie, that was a thumbs up that went to the yes, so that's 32 total.
32 total. Okay. 32 to 0. The motion carries. If you've had an application on the consent agenda and we are not going to discuss your event this evening any further, and so if you want to leave the meeting, that's fine. Thank you for being here. Okay. Now we're going to move to the regular agenda. Is there anyone here from Lafette du Rose? Okay. I couldn't find that they had changed their event. So is there a motion to defer this application?
So moved.
Du Rose. So moved. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. All those in favor, use your yes buttons. Oops, clear it. Use your yes buttons to, if you're in favor of deferring this application. It'll only be deferred if they change their date. Okay. I see 29 in favor, 28 in favor. These are tiny print for my glasses. Okay.
26, Debbie.
26, thank you. And none opposed. The next one is Virginia Highlands Summerfest. They did not contact me regarding their application. Is there anyone here that wants to represent it? I know Kay just told us that there's going to be a change in date. Seeing none, may I have a motion to defer this application?
Motion to defer.
Second.
Second, great, okay. All those in favor, please use your yes button. We're getting a lot of experience with these buttons today. Okay, has everyone voted? I see 27 in favor, None opposed. We'll defer that till they come back. The next one is AIDS Walk Atlanta and the music festival that goes along with it. Kat Thomas, this is your event.
Oh, yes. So Kat Thomas on the line. We held this event last year in the same location. The dates this year are setting up the 23rd through the 25th, and the event taking place on September 26th. All things continue for the application says about 9,000 participants, but likely expecting closer to 5,000 or 6,000. The main changes from 2018 to from 2019 would be moving to Saturday. In the past, it's typically been on a Sunday. We're condensing the run and walk together to have less of a footprint, or I guess a time footprint. And we're moving that run and walk to earlier in the day and having a shorter run of show. So kind of a smaller footprint overall. And those are the only main changes from 2019. Any specific questions about the event you'd like me to cover?
Does anyone have any questions? I know the AIDS Walk is, do you know how many years that you've been doing this? I think it's been closer to 20 plus.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't want to say incorrectly, but it's been hosted for quite some time in the area. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number.
Okay.
Kat, who's doing the security for the event?
I believe it is nationwide that is going to be managing our security.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion to support?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of supporting the application, please say aye, or please hit the yes button. I have to get my own act together here. Okay. I see. Has everyone voted? I see 23 in favor with 1 opposed. Great, thank you. The motion carries. Kat will let the city know that the NPU supports your application.
Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you. Is there, did I miss any special events? Okay, good planning. All right, the next section is the alcohol license applications. We have 4. The first is CVS Pharmacy 4747. The applicant asked us to defer this application to the next month. May I have a motion to defer?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, all those in favor? Oh, let's just do voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay. CVS Pharmacy 4604. This is at 865 North Highland. The applicant is Mr. Solomon, and he's represented by Mindy.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mindy. I have gone blank. Hey, Mindy.
Hello, everyone. Mindy Thompson with Sard and Leff Attorneys. Neb Solomon is on as well. Neb, could you say hello for the record?
Hello, everybody. Neb Solomon, CVS.
So this is just a change of agent for the CVS located off North Highland Avenue. Neb's been with CVS for over 10 years and just changing for him to become the agent on the alcohol license. No history of violations at this location, and Neb has not previously held an alcohol license previously.
Are there any questions for Mindy or Neb? Virginia Highland did not have a report for this application. May I have a motion?
Motion to support. Second.
And a second, okay. We're going to go back to the yes, no buttons. All those in favor, please hit the yes button. Those opposed, please use the no button. Okay. I see 29 in favor and 3 opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for both of you being here. Poppy's Cuban and Caribbean Grill. This application is as a result of the annexation of the Emory property into the city of Atlanta. Mr. Ronaldo, are you here? Regalado. I saw Ray's name on the list. Okay. Is there
Debbie,
anyone
I
here
have
represent?
Debbie, Sean here. Just I see 2 Rays on our meeting list, but they don't have a. He does not have a mic or a audio or video enabled, so I'm not sure how he's connected here. So it could be that
No.
he's having technical difficulties.
But Ray Regalado is definitely here. Oh, he's trying to connect.
He is. Okay. Let's give him a few. This application was on an NPU agenda, I think in January or February, and he did not appear. The NPU voted to deny. It was the first time we've never had that we had an applicant for an alcohol license not appear. When it got to the LRB, they sent him back to the NPU, which is the reason why he's now on the agenda. Mr. Regalado, are you on the?
He's still not showing audio or video. I've sent him a chat to ask if he's having technical difficulties, but he hasn't responded.
Okay.
I know.
I just wanted to see if somehow I've got him muted and can't.
Debbie,
Yes.
would it be reasonable to move his item to the end of the agenda and then he can have some time to figure out his technical issues maybe?
Yeah, that we can do that. Okay. Ray, when you join us, let us know. And then the next application is the Goat Club. This is an application that we heard at the NPU meeting on at our February meeting. At that meeting, the NPU voted to deny the application. This is an update from the applicant on the progress that they're making in renovating their facility and the changes that they've made to their application. Is there someone here from the Goat Club that'd like to give us an update?
Yes, first of all, I'm Alan Begner. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
I am the lawyer for the Goat Club. Susan Pulaski, who has been operating with y'all, is unable to attend today. She works for me. And both Mohammed Erkek, the agent, and Osman Sacker on the agenda. You have voted once, and without knowing, it was my understanding that we were to show you some evidence of parking leases, which we have done. I would just like to say, before Osman talks about the kitchen, that they started out applying for a nightclub with live entertainment, but when they came to me, they didn't know that there was a residence too close and they did not meet the requirements. And so I'm a long-time alcohol licensing lawyer, and I told them that they needed to either walk away from it or apply as a restaurant with no live entertainment. They had spent a lot of money renovating the building already and chose to continue. So there was no attempt to sort of pretend to be a restaurant in a way to get by with what they wanted to do. But they meet all the requirements. By the way, when you switch from nightclub to restaurant, there are no parking requirements in the alcohol code for restaurants with no live entertainment. But they meet all the requirements that we ask you to just give them a chance to show you that they will do what the law requires. They deserve a chance. And of course, if they fail to operate in a way that is lawful, the city would and certainly could and would move to revoke them or cite them. I don't know why the restaurant plans are important to a new vote, but both of them are here. So if you'd like to hear more just about the restaurant plans, I'll ask one of them to talk.
Hi, this is Osman, and I'm willing to answer if there's any questions. I'm waiting for any questions.
Yeah, as I discussed with Susan and also with Alan today, I believe that you all have met your requirements by the LRB and have attended the NPU meeting and actually exceeded your requirements by attending the Lindridge Martin Manor meetings. So
yes,
I don't believe that it's necessary for us to take another vote on your application. We did receive a copy of your parking leases, and after some research by our alcohol chair, found that there was some discrepancy, and that a couple of the business owners didn't remember signing an agreement. So we'd like to clear that up as soon as we can.
Sure.
Let me jump in, if I may, about this. I don't know if can y'all hear me? Do I have the right? Okay.
You're good.
Good, thank you. I'm learning my way about Zoom. So I oppose questions from the NPU about whether or not the parking leases have some irregularities. Nobody from the NPU has said there's irregularities. To ask questions without being confronted with proof is unfair. The city investigated the leases in 2019 and found no problems. And so I talked to Debbie earlier, and she just asked her what to expect. And she mentioned that there may be at least one lease that has an irregularity, but they're all signed, they're all notarized, and I object to being sort of hit with having to explain them.
Also, I would like to add that we needed to do notarized copies. So we hired a notary to sign those papers, the lease agreements. And according to law, we were supposed to do this with the business owners. If you run through any discrepancy, that might be the reason, like maybe I'm just assuming you contacted to a general manager, or the business owner's wife or relative, that they might not remember it, or they might not be sure what's going on exactly question. But we had a actual notary and then we explained them and we get in touch with the business owners. And if there is anything else, I'm waiting here to answer.
This is Kevin Kilbride. I have a question. Where are you guys at in terms of permitting for your commercial kitchen?
So after we updated our construction plans, we submitted to the first step of like the city, which is the zoning department. They approve it. The next one was the building permits, and we submitted to the building permits department, and it passed like, I believe 2 to 3 weeks. We were in talking to them like, and they were about to approve our building permits any day, but the quarantine happened. This COVID-19 situation happened, so they put us on hold.
So do you currently have a permit to conduct work in that building?
You're talking about a building permit.
Yes, I am.
I don't know the answer to that.
Usually it's required that you have that up front on notice of a building. And in terms of reference to Mr. Bergner, I've owned some 37 restaurants over the last 40 years. I've never heard where a restaurant was not required to abide by the parking requirements. And the question here is really the validity, as we've mentioned a little bit, as to the legality of those leases, whether or not they're with a tenant. We verified it. We had 2 right off the bat that actually objected to this whole process and to any signing of a document. That's fraud. And I hope you're aware of that as an attorney. It's pretty serious what the crimes are we're looking at right now.
If I may answer, I don't know, like maybe my connection is connected.
Stop. Mr. Duffy, first of all, we have building permits to build out and renovate the restaurant that were gotten timely. The question posed to Mr. Sack is whether or not, as I understand it, a particular sub-kitchen permit. And so,
correct, yes.
And wait a second, and I don't appreciate this NPU saying something about fraud, and you're wrong about the parking requirements too. So I'd like an apology about whoever you're alleging to be a fraud. Who do you say says that their signature has been forged? Who is it?
We're asking for an extension at the least of 30 days. But as of right now, 2 of those signatures, the participants had mentioned they did not sign them. And we want to give the person the benefit of the doubt. So we're verified, and with the others, because of the coronavirus situation, we've had this kind of all came up a little bit unsuddenly to ask us to expect to verify, and we did. We verified it physically, and we also verified with conversations with people. And I don't owe you any type of apology. The NPU, this is part of the requirements for licensing. And if you're unaware of that, I'm sorry, but you will owe us an apology, I believe, at this time, sir. And that's all that needs to be done. We don't need to go into any lengthy conversation more than that at this point.
May I speak?
Yes.
Hello? Hi, I was just happened to be walking by that property today, and saw a paper on the door, which I hadn't seen before. I live in the neighborhood. And the building permit is issued to a club lounge that was issued on March the 5th. It is not issued to a restaurant.
Well, we changed the application to restaurant. And
when was that?
Yeah.
Probably, I'm without knowing for sure, probably in January.
So this was issued on March the 5th.
So I don't know what that permit says, but we have amended the application because I said we had to restaurant. And I oppose, by the way, any postponement. If you thought you had something, you should have looked at it before. You can take it to the city.
It's fine.
Wait, hey, come on.
Debbie, may I be recognized?
Jack, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to lower the tone of this conversation altogether, and I'd like to ask that we not mention potentially felonious acts casually, whatever we think, and that we just try to stick to the known facts here and not anecdotes. And I don't know what those facts are, so I'm not advocating for anyone, but Debbie, I think I'm correct in saying he's before us, so we can, if there's a recommendation that we have a valid recommendation to make, we can make it. If there's no valid recommendation to make, then I think this discussion is moot. And if he if anyone does not have a valid building permit, the way to take that up is with the building department and not through the NPU. The building department is good about that. We've dealt with them successfully on such an issue in the last 6 weeks. And so that's the appropriate way. And it is very difficult to know, particularly in this time, what has been changed at the city or may not be posted out there. So I just would like us to have a little more cordial discussion and focus on what the procedure is here. And if there is a vote to take, let's identify that vote and what it is to take it on. And if there's not, let's thank the folks for being here. And if they have other problems, let's take it up with the city, with the appropriate folks, if those problems exist, is my suggestion.
Thank you, Jack. As I said at the outset, Mr. Sack, please let me speak. As I said at the outset, we've already voted on this application. The city asked us to hear an update on the application, noting that they had formally changed their application from a nightclub to a restaurant. And I agreed that that would be appropriate, but I do not think it's appropriate at this time, while we still have some open issues, to take another vote. As I expressed to both Susan and to Alan, I do appreciate very much that the applicant is interested in receiving our support. I don't think the neighborhood is ready to give it, given that there are a number of open issues that we still have concerns about. But you have met your obligations. If you're ready to go to the LRB when the LRB begins convening again, then I see no reason why you can't do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Debbie?
Thank you. Yes, Jane.
I may be using the technology wrong. I raised my hand on the side, but if I could have an opportunity to ask a question when it works for the group, please.
Okay, Jane, do you want to identify your past experience with this application, just so that others might know?
I'm Jane Rawlings. I live in Linridge Martin Manor, and I was the prior license and alcohol chair for NPU F when this application, the first iteration of this application, came before us. And Jake is the current chair, having been elected in November, his term starting in January. So I have two questions for Mr. Begner. First,
has the city issued an LRB hearing date for this application? And second, the parking leases that have been submitted, the signatories, are they the business owners for the properties or the property owners for the properties? Thank you.
Thank you. If I may reply, as to your first question, I don't think, I know of no license review board date being set for us. I don't think they've set one at all, but I may be mistaken. I don't think they intend to meet in this way, but to my knowledge, there is not one set. I don't, in terms of the second question about the leases, it's unclear, and I didn't seek the leases, but it's unclear generally whether or not you would have to go to the tenant or to a general manager or to the landowner. If it would seem to me, generally the tenant is the person who, having leased the property, would have the power to lease it out. But other than that, I don't know.
And that's a clarification that we'll need to get from APD, I think, or planning. I guess this is an SAP that was filed. Are there any other questions from anyone from the neighborhoods?
If I may interrupt, can I have a talk like for a minute, for a second?
Okay, 30 seconds, please.
Just my comment is just to clear it up, like a couple points that I was inside. So the first one regarding to the parking requirements, regardless if we have to have a parking or not, we already have like around 75 or 80. I'm not sure about it, but I'm sure it's more than 75 parking spots that we lease. And as a second, we did all those according to the city zoning requirement. We did all of those with notarized. And if you run into checking our signatures was correct or not, if somebody said it is not, like I don't know about it, my only guess is that they are not, we signed those leases with the business owners there. So if there is the person that get in touch was a general manager or their spouse or their children that they might not know or they might not understand.
Okay. Mr. Sack, your audio is going in and out, and it's difficult to
be with the business owner and notarized, and we did it. Could you hear me?
Yes. Only every several words.
And then, could you understand me? Did my connection got lost? Do you want me to explain more?
Osman, you're just saying what I'm saying. I think we've already made the point.
And then if you want to check about the building permit, we got our building permit as a nightclub. And then when Mr. Wagner told us like we need to add the commercial kitchen to our plans, we apply to modify it. That might be the discrepancy. You guys are like not sure if we are talking about the same thing, but we have a building permit, and as some of you might realize, we posted on our door. Right now, the only thing we are waiting is the approval of the sub-plan, which is the commercial kitchen. And
right, and I understand. Yeah, and I understand that you're still waiting on the permits from Fulton County as well to operate the kitchen.
You in the construction or adding the kitchen?
Not the construction, the actual permits to operate a kitchen.
I think it's probably true. That'd be a health department issue, I think.
Yeah, and Susan explained that she's running into the same problem that we all are with trying to contact someone that works for the government during this COVID period. So, okay, I very much appreciate the update. I appreciate your participating in the meeting as you move through the process. If you want to keep checking in with us, I think that would be great. I do not see us taking a vote this evening. There's still a couple open issues that I think we need to resolve before we ask the neighborhoods if they want to reconsider the application. And let's just put that on hold for another month, especially assuming that the LRB is not going to be meeting anytime in the very near future. And it's probably going to take you a good 30 days to get that restaurant permit anyway, and you're going to need that before you go to the LRB. Correct?
I think so. Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's stay in touch. As I said, I do appreciate your being here.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Alan, Osman, and Mohammed. Okay, we're going to try and go back to Poppy's Cuban and Caribbean Grill. Ray, have you been able to get on the, get your audio working?
Debbie, Ray is showing here and he is muted. I've tried to reach out to him a couple times. I don't like to unmute people without their okay, but it's kind of hard to get an okay when I can't reach him.
I'm going to unmute him.
Okay.
Ray. Well, I don't know that I can can I unmute him? I just thought I did. He called me in the middle of that last discussion, and
actually he just dropped off the call here.
Oh dear. Okay, then we're going to move ahead. We'll catch up with them before the end of the meeting. The next item on the agenda is V2042. This is 892 Adair Avenue. The applicant seeks a variance from the zoning regulations to 1, reduce the required front yard setback from 35 feet to 29 feet to construct a second-story addition, and 2, reduce the required west side yard setback from 7 feet to 5 feet to construct an in-ground swimming pool. I understand that Virginia Highland was not able to go through their process because of the COVID restrictions, but the applicant does have, can ask us to move forward if they're interested. Is the applicant present?
Yes, it's me.
Yes. Ham, what would you like to do tonight? Or would you want to be deferred?
Actually, we would like to be heard. If we can do this, what we want to do is just ask for the front yard setback. We're no longer interested in the 5-foot setback for the pool. We've worked out a way to just make that all stay within the 7-foot setback.
Okay, so it would be the first variance request only, and the second one you do no longer need.
Right, the front yard setback is the only one we want.
Okay, so, do you want to describe?
Yeah, so we have an existing bungalow on Adair that we want to build a second floor to. It'd be a partial build out, and the existing house is already in violation of the front yard setback. And so we just want to build up straight up from there. So we wouldn't be getting any closer.
Okay.
That's about the size of it. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? This type of variance is one that would generally go on our consent agenda, since it's staying within the footprint and just going up.
And Debbie, I'm sorry, this is Kevin Cronin. I had a question for Pam. Any neighbors opposed to this variance?
No. Well, they've all been notified. We haven't heard anything. We spoke with the neighbor next door who had some concerns that if we do put a pool in, there may be an easement that goes through there. Our survey shows the easement on the property behind us, which wouldn't impact the pool. And her survey, which dates from 1993, does show an easement through there. So the pool may be a moot point. If we build it, we'll build it within the regular setback. So, and I've heard that's the only neighbor that we've had any discussion with.
Thank you.
That doesn't affect the front yard setback, right? They're the only variance you're asking for. That's a moot point right now.
We are asking for the front yard setback.
Right. But the other issue is not relevant right now.
That's right. We're not asking for the pool setback.
Okay.
The reality on this is that 100 out of 100 of these applications are going to be approved by the BZA, regardless of any action or failure to act by the any NPU, because this is a completely routine in its current form, a totally routine variance. We didn't make a recommendation because we weren't able to do a site visit, and we don't do recommendations without site visits, but my observation still stands.
Sure.
This is certain to be approved.
Can I have a motion, please, from someone?
Make a motion to approve this variance.
Second.
Okay, and the variance being number 1, but not number 2,
Front
right?
yard variance only.
Okay.
The front yard, yes.
Okay, so, and that's been seconded. So the motion is to recommend approval of the variance to reduce the front yard setback from 35 feet to 29 feet to construct a second-story addition, and to make no recommendation on to reduce the required west side yard setback at this time.
Correct.
Well, no, that's not being requested at this time. We're not making a recommendation. It's been withdrawn.
Right.
Okay, it's been withdrawn. Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes on, vote yes. Those opposed to the motion, please vote no. Okay, has everybody voted? I see 22 have voted in favor and none have voted against. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pam. The next item is V2053. This is 1507 North Morningside Drive Northeast. The applicant seeks a variance from the zoning regulations to 1, reduce the required side yard setback from 7 feet to 2.6 feet along the southern property line, and 2, increase the maximum lot coverage from 50% to 55.61% of the total area of the lot in order to construct a 2-story accessory building. Is the applicant present?
I am, Debbie. It's Ryan Hennigy here.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to give us just a quick overview of what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, let me,
Oh, sorry.
okay, and does Morningside have a report?
Yes, we do. We did do a site visit and we voted unanimously to approve. I think it was 10 to, at least 10 people voted.
Okay, great. So Ryan, I'm sorry. Go ahead and tell us briefly what you're planning on doing.
Yeah, no problem at all. My wife and I purchased the home here in August, and the previous owners had constructed a structure that was intended to be the garage, which they never completed. So there was a slab and 3 walls. So we've done some investigation to actually finish that into a garage in the backyard, a detached garage, and then put a small seating area on top of that. And that was our plan.
Okay, so there was a partially constructed accessory structure?
Yeah, so,
Was that-
oh, sorry, I cut you off.
Was that intentional or?
Yeah, so apparently I spoke with the previous owners and their children were big lacrosse players. So they actually just used it as a backstop and never completed the garage.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
I do have one question. You're 2.6 feet from your boundary line, and normally I think there's like a 3-foot buffer that we would go for because of just ease or difficulty of maintaining. And anything less than 3 feet, is that going to be a problem here?
I mean, that's a good question. I think I could talk to the architect and see if we could make that additional 6 inches work, I guess.
Yeah, because I think almost every case that's come up in the many years I've been doing it, and some of longer, that has been something that's been overlooked. And 3 feet is normally the minimum necessary to do any maintenance. You really can't do anything less than that. So I would really recommend that your architect look at that again and see if you can move that over. The other thing I have a question with is, going to more than 50% lot coverage for impervious surface. And normally when that comes up, at least it hasn't come up in our neighborhood that much, but in Virginia Highland, I know that there are some additional stormwater measures that are taken by the homeowner to mitigate the additional impervious surface. And I'm wondering if that has been addressed at all.
Well, I guess two answers to that. One, we intended to actually tap into the existing structure for the rainwater runoff. The house was constructed in 2012. And then secondarily, they actually put in AstroTurf. I referenced the lacrosse players earlier. So we were actually going to take that out as well as part of the construction. So I'm not sure if that will come off of part of that 55% overage as it is right now, because I think we're at 55.24 currently, but we're intending to remove that as well and put Mondo grass out there as well as pervious pavers.
So do you think that would bring it back to 50%?
Yes. I think it would be under if my math's correct. I haven't done math in quite some time, but I think it's correct. I think it would be under.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is Rebecca again. I'm looking at this property. The garage is actually built into the slope of the backyard, so the side yard is actually in like kind of underground, the way the foundation's already built.
Uh-huh.
It's built into a pretty steep slope back there. It's kind of hard to picture, but it's actually kind of a cool little property.
Any other questions for the applicant? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay. So a motion's been made and seconded to approve V2053 for the 2 variances that were previously stated, which is side yard from 7 feet to 2.6 along the southern property, and increase the maximum lot coverage from 50 to 55.61%. All those in favor, please use your yes button, or in those opposed, your no button. Has everyone voted? I see 18 in favor and none opposed. Motion carries. Okay, the next item is V2025-1890 Lenox Road Northeast. The applicant would like to rezone the property from R4 single-family residential minimum lot size 0.21 acres, zoning designation to the R3 single-family residential minimum lot size 0.41 acres, zoning regulation. Is the applicant present? Rebecca, is this something that Morningside considered?
This was sent out to the board, but no one had any comments really about this.
Okay. We need to provide a recommendation to the city. Did you talk to the applicant?
No, I did not talk to the.
Okay. Okay. Are there any objections to deferring this until we can have a conversation with the applicant? I don't think there's any issues with this, but our normal process for rezonings would be to consult with the applicant.
Move to defer.
Move to defer, okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Are there anyone opposed to deferral? Okay, motion carries. The next application is Z 2012. This is also a rezoning ordinance to rezone from R3 single family residential to NC5C Cheshire, which is our Cheshire Bridge Road South Neighborhood Commercial District conditional for property located at 1989 Cheshire Bridge Road and for other purposes. Is the applicant present for this one? Is the applicant present for Z 2012? Okay, is there a motion to defer?
Move to defer.
Second.
Second. All those in favor of deferral, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you.
Wait, this is,
That's the one there, Nino's, is that right?
Yeah, this is the one to Nino's.
Right. To the north of Nino's, between that and the the old GDOT property.
Yeah.
This is Jessica Hill. I represent the property owner. Our understanding was that application was something that the city was handling. Perhaps Doug Young could speak to that.
Oh, good point, Jessica. Thank you.
I don't have any additional information, I'm sorry, Jessica, about the status of that application, but it sounds like it is a corridor rezoning that's related to the existing NC package that was adopted several years ago.
Not exact, well, yes, it's cleanup of the corridor rezoning. There was a rezoning to NC in that area, and there was a small piece of property that is landlocked and was missed in the legal description when the city zoned to NC5. The zoning maps were updated to show the areas being zoned NC5, but it was still zoned R3. The property has since been redeveloped in reliance on the fact that it was zoned NC5. And so this is just going back and correcting the map. And I can pull up some maps and screen share. Let me just grab them. Sorry, I thought I was under the impression that the city was handling this, so.
We received like no information except for the actual ordinance on this one.
Yeah. Let's see. Sorry. But again, it's not the building is there. The zoning map showed it as being NC5, and it's only going back through and looking at the legal descriptions for the property that we have determined that there is a landlocked piece that is zoned R3. So the proposal is not to redevelop anything. It's not to change anything. It's to do what the property owner thought had been done back in 2013 when they had the corridor rezoning. Sorry, my Outlook has closed on me. Let's see.
You know, actually, Jessica, this would not have been part of the corridor rezoning because that property was Georgia DOT property, and that was a separate rezoning action that took place, what, 4 years ago, maybe?
Let's see.
And the corridor was rezoned, ooh.
2013.
Yeah, the 2013 would have been the Georgia DOT rezoning. The corridor rezoning goes back to 2001.
Let's see. Yeah, Doug, I thought it was strange that you would be handling it, given given what you typically do. Let's see. All right, I'm going to screen share if that's okay. I assume
Sure, go ahead.
that I'm able to do that. All right. Oh, it says you've disabled screen sharing.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Debbie, you probably could co-host Jessica
Okay.
to affect that for now.
Are these in alphabetical order? Jessica. Okay. Oh, here you are. Okay, I am co-hosting you.
All right.
Thank you.
I feel so special. All right.
And you should.
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So you can see this is a snapshot of the zoning history, and I'm going to go through a few slides. You can see where the Cheshire Bridger corridor was rezoned, I guess, in 2004. The area that we're talking about, if you look, there's a little R3 square that is right above the RG2. It's basically between the RG2 and NC5. That is the area that I'm talking about. Go to the next. There was 2013 to NC5, where you can see this little piece of R3 has been left out in the middle of the RG, between RG2 and NC5, even though it was part of the same property that was zoned and all owned by the same folks. And then you see various ownerships. And then you see, this is a snapshot of the zoning map that was in place at the time that the prior owner purchased the property. It shows that that area is no longer R3. It shows it as being NC5, even though it seemed to have been missing from the legal description. And so what we're asking, just if you can flip back and forth, is to take that little square of landlocked R3 and zone it to the same NC5C that was done in 2013.
So who screwed up here, Jessica?
I don't know. I had nothing to do with it. So like I said, I represent the current property owner who developed the property in accordance with this. So it sounds like it's, just an oversight from a city perspective potentially, and that's why there's not an applicant pursuing this. It is the city that is initiating this, which is why it's a text amendment.
Lovely.
Yeah, so again, I'll show you a little R3.
Yeah.
And then what it should look like. So what we're trying to get to is for it to look like what you see right now, which is what the zoning map has shown for several years.
Yeah.
So what part are we rezoning? Are we rezoning the smaller square or the bigger square?
We're rezoning the little tiny, on this screen, the little tiny square of R3 that is between the RG2 and the NC5C.
And that's all?
That's it.
And does that street actually exist?
No, it was abandoned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have to undo, well, are there any questions for Jessica, who I very much appreciate?
Why don't we approve? Is there any reason we can't approve this?
Well, yeah, there is no reason why we can't approve it. We have to undo the deferral.
Okay, I move to undo the deferral.
Okay. Is there a second to undoing?
Second.
Thank you, second. Is there any objections to undoing the deferral? I hear none. So we are undone. Is there a motion regarding this application?
I move to approve the proposed ordinance.
I move to.
Great. So that comes from Rich and Jack. Are you seconding it?
Yes, that's second.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions for Jessica, who did a fabulous job as both co-host and as with her slides? Yes. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Yeah.
Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries.
I'll stop my sharing. Thank you for letting me co-host.
Oh, thank you. Please come anytime. Okay, and we have got one more application before we get to matters for review and comment. This is Z19-125. It's also coming from the zoning department to amend the 1982 Atlanta zoning ordinance as amended by amending, I wonder if they could use amending any more times, by chapter 16A-16.0041A, industrial uses required to reduce the mandatory percentage of industrial floor area per development and for other purposes. Doug, can you help us with this one?
Sure, Debbie, I can first of all bring up the fact sheet.
Okay.
If you can make me co-host as well for the time
Okay.
being, I can share my screen.
I'm going to have to undo, withdraw. And I'm making you co-host. There you go.
All right. Let me bring that up. Here you go. Can you all see the fact sheet?
Yep.
Great. So you might remember from a little while back, I believe this has come around before, there was a question about the, let me reduce that for a minute, about the percentage of total floor area that had to be dedicated to one or more permitted industrial uses in the IMIX category. And so you go to the middle section here, it talks about it was 30%. And then the proposed would change to 30% or 3/10 of the net lot area, whichever is the lesser of the two. Please ignore on the bottom of the fact sheet the proposed ZRB dates. Of course, those are no longer valid.
I thought we approved this at our last meeting we were together.
We did not. This was on the March agenda, and of course that NPU meeting was canceled.
Okay, I move to support this. Virginia Holland did move to support this.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions regarding the?
Doug, why was the change made?
If you look at the fact sheet and you go to the Y section, it deals with some of the types of uses that don't need that much industrial. You're not they're not traditional manufacturing. They're more like assembly, light commercial, and maker space kind of places.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Doug? Okay, we do have a motion on the floor that's been properly seconded. All those in favor of supporting the application, we will vote yes if you're in favor of the motion and no if you are not. Okay. I see 16 have voted in favor and none opposed. The motion carries.
Debbie, I think I saw Ray's picture up there a little while ago.
Yes,
Yeah, and
He's there.
finally.
Okay.
I asked to use the help of my daughter, so sorry about that.
That's okay. We all needed help the first time. So this is, I'm going back to the alcohol license applications. This is for Poppy's Cuban and Caribbean Grill. It's a restaurant in Emery Point. It comes to us because the property was annexed into the city of Atlanta about 1.5 years ago, or 2 years ago, or maybe longer. And I've consulted with Druid Hills and they had no objections to or concerns regarding this application. Are there any questions for the applicant? Is there a motion?
Move to support.
Second.
Support. Any questions about the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Ray, that's all we needed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're
Have a
very
good-
welcome. It's nice to see your
Nice
face.
to see you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And we still have more. All right, matters for review and comment. The first item is SD 20-01, 1751 North Rock Springs Road. This is an application to subdivide property into 2 lots on North Rock Springs. The NPU may make comment on the application. I just wanted to make a note that the adjacent neighbors have talked to the applicant and the architect, and they're in agreement with their plans after having a number of concerns which were answered. Does anyone have any questions regarding the subdivision?
Will the new lots retain the surrounding zoning? Is it
Yes.
R3 or R4 will retain?
Yes.
So they both lots meet the requirements of, is it R4 or R3?
R4.
R4. So both lots meet the requirements of R4 zoning.
Right.
Okay.
And they have the proper frontage.
Frontage.
The 9,000 square feet, 70 feet frontage. Any other questions? Are there any other comments that we should make to the city regarding this application?
Has Morningside MLPA looked at this?
This is a good question. Rebecca, did Morningside look at this? I think y'all did. This is an old application. I think we originally got it the beginning of February.
Okay.
We just haven't been able to get it on a meeting agenda. I know Rebecca was copied on all the correspondence between the neighbors and the architect. And the architect is Mark Arnold.
Okay.
Okay. Then I will send a note to the city that the adjacent neighbors and the applicant have reached agreement with their plans and they agree in general. The next application for review and comment is V2031. This is an appeal at 1110 Monroe Drive. Once again, the NPU doesn't have to take any action. We just need to be aware that the appeal exists. The appellant is appealing an assessment that the property is a legal non-conforming triplex. The appellant believes that it is not. And if you're interested in reading the 249 pages, there's a link.
Jim at Piedmont Heights wrote every page, right?
That's right. That's right. Any other comments? We generally don't comment on appeals. Okay, the next one is Z2015. This is the Ponce Highland Historic District. And I'm going to let Doug Young bring us up to date on this one. Doug?
If you could allow me to share the screen right quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Great. Can you all see that screen?
Yep. Yep.
Yes.
Excellent. So this is a rezoning proposal to create the Ponce Highland Historic District. The Austin Design Historic Preservation staff has been working with the Ponce Highland neighborhood since about a year now, actually a little over a year now, to create a historic district for essentially the entire Ponce Highland neighborhood, with the exception of the Briarcliff Plaza Shopping Center, which is already a City of Atlanta landmark district. And this proposal would create the historic district, which would in fact replace the existing zoning essentially that exists today in the neighborhood with a historic district that would include 7 subareas. And those subareas would have both design and development requirements tailored to reinforce the historic character of the neighborhood, but at the same time allow a fair amount of flexibility for alterations, additions, and new construction in the neighborhood. The community conversation has been going on since last April, give or take, and then culminated in a support from NPU N in March last month. I believe it was unanimous support from their meeting in that regard. The interesting thing about this historic district is that it incorporates both the traditional, what you might expect to be traditional historic preservation type requirements, with form-based and general zoning requirements that also reinforce that historic fabric. The historic district would retain the Beltline zoning overlay requirements along the Beltline corridor itself, as well as the affordable housing inclusionary zoning components of that at the same time. You also would note that if you have been following along at home, that there's currently a historic district in the Ponce Island neighborhood called the Bonaventure Somerset Historic District. That's now proposed to be Subarea 6 and it's assumed into this new historic district. And that also takes into account the current SPI, Ponce Highland SPI, which is on this map shown as Subarea 7. The subareas in the sort of purple hue, the 3, 4, and 5 are generally mixed use commercial, and the subareas 1, 2, and 6 are essentially residential subareas, and they reflect, you know, densities and use allowances and design requirements that reinforce the historic fabric that exists in all those subareas. We will also be going to, the reason why we're with NPU F tonight is that, like other rezonings, we're within 300 feet of the NPU boundary. And we will be also going to NPU M, where they have their meeting this month, and we'll make sure we have all of our NPUs covered before we get to the zoning review board hearing, which we hope will be in the near future. And that's my very quick summary of the proposal.
Hey, Doug, why is the parking lot up by the Plaza Theater exempted from this?
The parking lot behind the Plaza Theater?
Well, fronting on Ponce de Leon, I guess.
That's already in the Briarcliff Plaza Shopping Center Landmark District. That's why it's not color coded.
Okay.
So I think we've given NPUN support. That's a good basis for our support for this. And I move that we support it.
Jack, no action is requested of us for this application?
No, I understand that. We're not forbidden to take action, however.
No, that's true. We are not.
So that's hence my motion.
I would second that motion.
And would you repeat the motion again?
I move that we support NPUN's recommendation of support for this district.
New historic district.
Yes.
And I would second that.
Okay. So motion was made to that NPUF support NPUN's support for this district. Are there any additional questions regarding the rezoning or the to historic district or anything of Doug on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please use your yes, no, your yes buttons. Those opposed, click on X. Carrie, if you're still here, if you go to the participants tab at the bottom, there'll be a couple icons, a green one with a check mark that is yes, and a red one with an X in the middle of it that's no. Do you see those? Yes, okay,
Yes,
good.
thank you, Deb.
Okay. Has everyone voted? I'm seeing that 20 vote in favor and none opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Doug. Great work.
Yep.
Thank you. I know it was a long slug through this one. And the last item on the agenda is to finish a conversation we started in February regarding the NPU legislation that's been proposed by council members Antonio Brown, Joyce Shepard, Amir Farouki, and Marcy Collier to make some changes to the NPU system, including a proposal to provide a template for bylaws to regulate elections, in asking that the municipal clerk certify those elections, make uniform the NPU boards, limit the participation by neighborhood associations on the boards to those that meet publicly, provide term limits to board members and board chairs in any kind of position, and then some operational issues, including having access to city facilities to hold meetings, asking for NPU coordinators and additional staff from planning to attend all monthly meetings. And I think that, and then the last item that would be a change, not for us, but for other NPUs, would be to prohibit NPUs from setting up a bank account. In February, we had a discussion regarding it. And I just want to, we had some specific comments regarding some of the elements of the legislation, but we also had some general comments, and I just want to highlight those. One is that this legislation makes changes to NPUs that are not functioning well by changing the way that NPUs operate who do function well. This could result in unintended consequences. Would be better to help the non-functioning NPUs find better ways to operate that fit their communities' areas of concern and available resources. Second comment was legislation does not change the way NPU supports its neighborhoods, but it does change the way that neighborhoods would relate to NPUs. Third, so little respect for NPU decisions by agencies that we provide recommendations to, and we really need to be looking at that instead. Fourth, should focus on what would make NPUs more effective. Next, to areas of concern need further study, can't give cogent approval or disapproval without understanding what the problems are and alternatives that can provide solutions, and in what communities those solutions would be best suited. And finally, none of the proposed legislative changes address community engagement, bringing more people into the tent. We did have comments regarding some of the proposed changes. For example, the legislation would redefine age of resident from 18 to 17. We asked the question, what problem does this solve? There is a recommendation that each neighborhood may only be represented by one NPU. That causes problems for us in that Druid Hills neighborhood is split between two NPUs. We also share the Armour Otley area with NPU E, which needs to be resolved at some point, and this legislation could help that. There were some bylaw recommendations on deadlines, and we suggested that the time frame seemed very short, and without knowing what would be in the templates, it's difficult to determine if this is a good idea or a plan. The section on elections we thought was too vague. It is unclear on what is to be standardized or changed. We suggest that planning should give more guidance or suggested protocols, but not dictate. Elections would be more uniform than it is the case today with attendant cost-benefit issues. Another solution is needed for unresolved matters. NPUs are recommending bodies, not governing bodies. Courts would tie up NPU actions while issues are being resolved. And that was responding to a recommendation that election results may be contested to planning for an investigation, and if it's still unresolved, that would be appealed to Superior Court. We also commented on the NPU boards, that not all active neighborhood associations meet on a monthly basis. The requirement that they must meet monthly would exclude communities from the policy-making process. Board members are regarding term limits. The term limits may impose hardships given the number of volunteers for NPU positions, essentially saying we don't have a whole lot of people lining up to do this. and that these term limits are not feasible as it takes a good 12 to 18 months just to learn the ropes and make contacts at City Hall. The part of the legislation we did not comment on was that on NPU operations, and the new elements would be that NPU should have access to city facilities to hold regular monthly meetings. The city shall designate an NPU coordinator and additional staff from the planning to attend all monthly meetings. The NPU coordinator shall be the primary contact person to support NPUs and shall possess skills to address and resolve inter-unit conflicts. And planning shall maintain a website with information about the time and location of NPU meetings and agendas. Are there any comments on that section?
I have several. For one, the legislation references inter-unit conflicts. I think he maybe meant intra-unit problems that are going on within the NPU, not between NPUs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, based on our limited understanding of what prompted all of this, the problems are within NPUs. It's not between NPUs.
Okay, I think that's a good catch, Kay.
And then the DCP already maintains a website with when our meetings are and when our agendas are and related materials. So I'm not sure, maybe that's just not documented in the original legislation, and maybe it needs to be, I don't know, but that already happens. And I think many MPUs already meet in city facilities. So again, I don't know if they're saying we have to meet in a city facility or just that we're allowed to. Because for us to meet in a city facility would mean that I believe we'd have to go either meet at the firehouse or leave the district.
Oh, we could meet at the poo tank. It's the only other city facility in our NPU.
Right.
Indoor.
Seems kind of a moot point right now, but.
Right.
Right.
And then again, I'm not sure, when I read this legislation initially, as I understood it, we have a planner that attends every meeting already, and they were suggesting that we need another person from EMPU coordinator's office to come attend a meeting. And to me, that is a waste of resource.
I agree. Thank you. I'm taking copious notes. Anyone else have any comments regarding that?
Debbie, would the NPU University and the city offering courses on how to do NPU business be of benefit rather than having legislation? I went through that booklet and it looks like there's lots of things that people could learn how to run an NPU. I mean, intra squabbles, you're going to have intra squabbles, intra NPU squabbles, it's just human nature, but it looks like the city is making some effort to, some organizational effort to do something about NPUs to NPU University. Now, whether it's effective or not, I don't know, but at least I think it's a good first step.
I agree.
Rather than having the legislation, maybe if they find it's the cart before the horse, maybe.
That's a great point.
And I think it speaks, Rich, to the fact that the individuals who wrote this legislation did not sit down with NPU leadership, a broad spectrum of NPU leadership, to get input on what the real issues were that we needed help solving. So there are a lot of things we would like the city to work on, more importantly than some of this. Just my opinion.
And you never have an opinion.
Not at all.
Yeah, and my understanding is they didn't sit down with planning and talk through some of their recommendations either.
Yep. And then Debbie, on the prohibitions about the bank accounts, yeah, we don't have a bank account. Many MPUs do. I guess, again, my question is, what problem are they trying to solve? Maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's not a good idea, but as long as we don't know what problem it is they're trying to solve, there's no way to know.
You know, maybe some MPUs have to rent a facility to have their meetings, and they use the bank account for that.
And if they want to raise money to have a neighborhood picnic, why would the city feel they need to stop them from doing that?
Right. Does anyone have anything else?
I took it, reading over all that, I took it I'm new to this whole process. So I find it interesting to, that you have kind of a group of council people, I guess, sounded trying to control the situation rather than what the initial intentions were. I mean, just looking basically at the NPU F, what I know of it in a short period of time, I'm impressed. So, you know, I think they're trying to isolate a few and try to generalize with that. How I took it.
I think that's probably a pretty good observation. Because when I compare the council members and the NPUs that they are representing, it's primarily those NPUs that are in a very limited part of the city. Amir and Councilmember Brown both include NPU E, but that's the only NPU that is north of I-20. And so I think they've got kind of they've taken a rather parochial view on these issues. Does anyone have any other comments?
I guess my only comment, Debbie, is that I'm really troubled by the approach. And as we said, we have a hard enough time finding people that are willing to take leadership roles in the neighborhood associations and the MPUs. And this was initially put together so that the community would have input. And if they start dictating to us how we will operate, I think there will be a lot of us that will find it much less attractive and interesting to participate.
Exactly.
And I would just hate to see a couple of council people or 3 or 4 council people who, some of whom have not been in their roles very long, to kill a system that has been really effective for 50 years or 40 years.
It's pretty close to 50 years, actually.
So this system has evolved a long way from where it was in the old days. So here's what I suggest. Why don't we send all the comments that you read? They're extremely diverse, and just those were comments made by a variety of citizens with a variety of viewpoints in NPUF. I don't know how helpful they're going to be, because combine that, multiply that times 18 or 19 and go.
I'm sorry, Jack, your audio is mucking up.
People trying to sort them out, but that's fine. They sent us a very broad matrix. Better?
I'm sorry now.
Okay.
So Debbie, your intent is to take these comments and send them back? Is that right?
Yeah, I was going to organize them and send a. I was, this one's hard. I was going to organize them and send them to planning. I was going to send them to APAB. Oh, that would be me.
Yes.
And send them to Jennifer Ide's office. Jack, were you suggesting that I send them to the executive committee? I didn't hear you say that, so I'm trying to read between the lines.
No, I hope this is better. I was suggesting that you just send the comments to the committee that requested them, or whoever. You listed a variety, that's fine. Send them to all of them. And I'll just make this other observation. If you only go to one NPU meeting consistently, you get used to the way that NPU does things. If they were all on Zoom, I would urge everybody to spend a month or two and visit them. I think you would be unpleasantly surprised by what you saw. I think we do okay here. And there are many other places that are in no way okay. And I don't know what I would do if I were on the receiving end of these, but our job is to provide comments. You read a bunch. They were all made by citizens. Send them in and we're done,
okay,
is my opinion.
I will do that.
You want a motion to that effect?
I don't think we need a motion actually, since this is under the review and comments.
Okay.
But I will share them with the NPU, and I will share whatever APAB comes up with as a final recommendation. I'm thinking that the response that APAB will make will be along process lines. I think we made a lot of really important points about the way the process was, how these recommendations came about, and that a whole lot more study would be needed before there are specific solutions that are offered in the form of law. If this was, and maybe trying out different actions or solutions depending on an NPU to see what works and whether or not there's unintended consequences.
Well, that's for APAB to decide. What I would love to see, by the way, if you get a hold of them, is I'd love to see the raw comments from every NPU. That's much more instructive to me personally than what APAB comes up with. I'd love to see what people poured in when they were asked. If other NPUs even bothered to record them, I'm not sure that'll happen, but.
Actually, I do have comments from about 5 NPUs that were sent directly to me. Most of the NPUs have put together comments.
Good.
And some of them are very, very well thought out.
Great. Let's send them. I'd love to see those.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. I'm still gathering them, but I'm very impressed at the quality of work. And the NPU that impressed me more than anything else is NPU L.
Who's that, Debbie? Where's NPU L?
NPU L is Vine City and English Avenue.
Okay.
For a long time, it was a poorly functioning NPU.
What a good cat.
And they have turned themselves around. They are very, very good.
Does the cat have an opinion, Jack?
Cat, I always listen to the cat's opinion, but he's thinking it over. He just.
Jack, my cat could be your cat's sister.
Well, bring him over. Rex likes to play.
Yes, Miss Rawlings.
Are we done with this topic? Because I just have one question for Doug before we adjourn, because I think we're at the end of the.
It sounds like we are at the end of the
Okay.
topic.
Quick question, Doug. Regarding the parking lease agreements on the Goat Club and the city's approval of the special administrative permit in regards to the parking, what is the process and what does the law state? Do those leases have to be executed with the property owners or the business owners? And what sort of research does the city actually engage in to prove the validity of them?
I don't know the answer to either of those questions, since I don't typically review parking lease kind of situations, but I can certainly find out or ask the zoning staff to find out.
Thanks. That would be helpful because I think, we previously voted to deny that alcohol application based on 3 concerns, one of which has been addressed with the removal of live entertainment from the application, but the other 2, parking, demonstrating adequate parking and demonstrating that they've been inspected by Fulton County and been issued a kitchen permit, are still outstanding. And we have copies of leases, but I am more so than a matter of are the signatures valid or not. The bigger question is who has the legal right to engage in the agreement.
The way I read the law is that it's the property owner and not the business owner.
That's my take as well. And several of these are signed by business owners, not property owners, which would.
Right, but how much parking was required on that, since we're talking about this case? How much for the restaurants? How much was required?
Debbie? Debbie?
Yes.
This item is passed on the agenda and the applicants are no longer present. I'll suggest that we don't have a discussion about it.
Would it be appropriate if I adjourn the meeting that we could have a friendly conversation?
Debbie, sorry to interject. I just wanted to, Patrice, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, had messaged me a couple of topics ago directly from the Wine Walk Run 5K. Patrice, are you still with us and can you unmute?
Yes. Hi. Good evening, everyone. Real quickly, and thank you, Debbie. I did send you information. Regarding my meeting that I attended December 3rd with Jennifer Ide, where I was told that I was approved for the Wine Walk Run event, and they sent the paperwork into the city.
Okay, and do you know who, if you attended, December 3rd would have been NPU E.
Okay, and then she said she would contact District 6 and find out if they had any questions for me. And I also spoke with, I think, Courtney Smith.
NPU E.
Also,
yeah, that was NPU E. We're NPU F.
Okay.
That's just the difference.
All right. And so from them, I was told everything was taken care of and I wouldn't need to attend any other meetings. So I guess that was incorrect. And then the city also sent me an approval for NPU.
Bruce, I understand that the city's process is a little bit different than the NPU's process.
Got it.
I will make a note that you have attended NPUE and have received the city's approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, since we're kind of drifting on topics, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. It's 9:16.
We can convene an LMNA meeting on liquor licenses.
Sure.
And I agreed we shouldn't take any action without the applicant here, but moving forward, we're going to need an answer on that matter so that we can intelligently vote.
So the lawyer, he argued that the parking question was not a relevant question. Is that correct?
So
if it's not, there's no, he's correct. We shouldn't be discussing it. we can't oppose it on a grounds that are not, that he hadn't met a requirement that doesn't exist.
So the alcohol code does require a certain number of spaces for a restaurant. So on that topic, he is not correct. If
So,
that's
yeah.
And I can't speak to who said they signed and didn't sign erroneously, but what we have are signed leases, some of which are signed by property owners and some of which are signed by business owners. And what I can't answer is which are valid and what's the city process to determining the validity. But the applicant has a signed SAP from the city.
So I would just suggest as a matter of procedure that if we're not prepared to challenge them, we may have a question, but we're not prepared to challenge them, that we say we're not prepared to challenge them, but we don't say that they're invalid and that we not suggest that they're fraudulent. That bothered me. And I don't think that's a smart thing to say to anybody, whether they're a lawyer or not. And
I agree.
so I would rather that we, Jane, if you can, there's a limited amount that a neighborhood group can do. You can inquire. You have no ability to compel people to give you notarized statements. All you can do is ask and record the conversation, the day and time it was had, and try to take a second person with you and say we met with him, and write it up and ask him to send him an email later and say, this is my understanding of what was said. Does this conform to what you believe? And then we have something in writing. But other than that, the he said, she said's aren't going to work. How many spaces do they need down there under the alcohol code? Depends on their size and all of that.
According to their application, they needed 63. And
but that was for the nightclub, wasn't it?
no, I think that's on the let me
That's
see.
a huge
They
number
would have
for a
need,
restaurant.
it's a 60, I'm going on memory, but it's a 6,300 square foot,
Okay.
6,400 square foot. So they would need 63, 64 spaces.
Yeah, and this is, I'm reading this from the application where they did not include the entertainment. So this would just be for the restaurant.
Okay, so, and how many do they have on the leases without understanding? That's their assertion on the leases. How many spaces do they have? They're clean.
They said they had 75 on the leases, but the leases, according to what I saw, these are shared spaces, and 75 would only be available from 9 o'clock to 3 a.m. I think they have like 40 some spaces between 6 and 9 p.m. And Jack, what I told Begner is that we just have some questions that we needed to work out. And they insisted on coming to the meeting. I wanted to take some time just to get some clarity from the city, get some clarity from the business owners.
Yeah, in general, I mean, you're right. If they want to come and talk, they can. But it behooves us all to use the NPU as a decision-making body and not as a Congress to argue it. So we'd like to have our facts, or our version of the facts, what we believe to be the facts, in hand, and our proof for it, and proffer it, and then ask for a result based on that. And if we're not sure if they're valid or not, it may not be within our ability to get that certified, but we can at least summarize that argument and present it on to the folks that up the ladder. And that's about the best we can do, I think.
I think you're right. I think you're right. And I think there's a little bit of time because they don't have their restaurant permit from Fulton County Health Department, and they're going to need that before they go before the LRB.
Right, but
and they don't even have an LRB date. But and I agree with you, Jack. And I want to be clear: I'm not questioning people's integrity or character, whether they signed something. That was not my question. My question is, what is the city's process for determining the validity? Because that would be the body that would need to do it. and moving forward so that we can interpret these intelligently is the city's requirement that it's a property owner who enters the agreement or the business owner. And that,
And that's a question we should ask and can ask, but the place to ask it is not of these guys. We need to ask that before we come into this meeting. And we may or may not, given the difficulty sometimes of getting a clear response in a timely way, get a response in either fashion. But I just really, I woke up from, it's not that I wasn't interested in it, I was listening, but I really woke up when I heard the fraud comment. And I think we really need to, that really woke me up.
We've had a significant problem, you know, in the Cheshire Bridge corridor anyway, with people, you know, coming to get a liquor review, you know, or license or a license at a restaurant or whatever, that tell us one thing and then, you know, it changes significantly over a period of time. And once they get a liquor license, it's really difficult to get, you know, to get it pulled. You know, it took us, what was it, 2 years with room service lounge?
yes.
So all the more reason I would suggest to really get our ducks in a row before we walk in, and to be super careful about the way we present things. The slipperier folks are, the easier it is for the train to go off the tracks. And so, I mean, I mean, I'm with you. I would like to see the law applied properly, and I think it's difficult and vague. And some of the times we need to ask for clarity, and it's hard to get it. And we have some problems with the LRB. See my remark that Debbie read about the general lack of regard that many city agencies have for NPU points. But in order, the answer to that has got to be not to yell at the agencies, but to make our points as ironclad as we can. Here's who we met with. Here's what they said. Here's the email we sent clarifying it. Here's the situation. Here's where we asked the city. And that's a lot of burden to put on us because we're all volunteers. So I sympathize hugely. But when you run into Begley, who's a good lawyer with a long history, been doing it a long time, he would much rather talk about our incorrect allegations that he was fraudulent, which were probably incorrect, than talk about this. So let's just zero in on the target and get there if we can, and know which battles to fight, and not fight the ones we can't fight. I mean, if we don't have a ground to fight it, we don't have a ground to fight it. We don't get to argue in variance cases about lots of things we don't like because the law allows them to occur. We don't like them, but we just have to let it go because it's not in the law.
Well,
anyway,
this particular application stands, we voted to disapprove, did we not, or to not recommend it?
yeah, but when it was a nightclub, we did.
No.
Oh,
The nightclub submission never even came before the NPU.
Okay.
Then they changed it to a restaurant with live entertainment. That was the application before us in February that we voted on to deny. Now they have an amended application, restaurant without live entertainment.
And this can be instructive for any leases that come up in the future. This is the first time that I can remember that we have questioned about who actually has the authority to grant a parking lease. And we've done it, and we just sort of take it for granted that if they get a lease, it's valid. But this is the first, because of the nature of this particular issue, now we don't know. And maybe it's helpful for us in the future. Once we find out, it'll be helpful for us in the future too, to, you know, if something comes up and we start, maybe have some question whether they really have obtained a proper lease or not, we can ask them, did you get, this is what the law says. Did you follow the law?
Well, the laws, that's a tricky set of remarks. This has come up all the time in Virginia Holland. I mean, it came up about 9 or 10 months ago, and it involves shared spaces at different hours. And in my personal opinion, which did not prevail at the planning committee, and that's fine, I don't always convince people, but you know, if I can't convince the planning committee, probably not going to convince the city. So I thought there was a lot of double dipping going on, the same spaces being counted several times for several purposes. In fact, the lawyer for one of those folks argued that that was legal, or at least not illegal. In any case, this is a little bit moot in Virginia Highland, because in fact, we don't seem to have a parking problem here like we did 15 years ago. The ride services and walking and other things, and probably business being down a little because folks are going elsewhere, our parking lots are not filling up anymore. So it's an intellectual problem. But if y'all are having, I'm for it. I'm just saying, Jane, I think you ought to call Begley, or ask to talk to Begley and ask him how he reads the code. And I'm not trying to win an argument with him, but he's arguing that the code doesn't require parking. And I would ask him. That works very well with our other friends that are in the liquor business, who tend to filter their clients maybe a little better. That's what I normally do, is call Mindy Thompson when we have a question and say, Mindy, tell me your argument here. I want to understand your argument, so that I want to know your argument very well. If I disagree with it, at least I'll know what it is. And if I don't, well, so that's what I would like to hear, is what is Begley saying, how is he reasoning that he doesn't need those spaces?
Well, yes, and at face value, if he doesn't need the spaces and that's his interpretation of the law, why engage in parking lease agreements for spaces that he says?
Well, fair point. Fair point. Yeah, that's a very good point.
And like I said, just moving forward, if they've got a signed SAP already from the city, I don't know that there's truthfully anything the NPU can do.
Well, I'm wondering why they even sent us the parking leases if they believed that they weren't required anyway.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Well, we asked for them. I mean, in fairness,
we did ask for them.
Right, we did, but they should. I mean, they could have come back and said, we no longer need them.
Well, Begley said that tonight. That was his point. We got them. You asked for them. We're responding to you.
Right.
But in fact, we don't need them, and it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
And if he's wrong, he's wrong, and we should make that point to the LRB. And if he's right, we should learn it ourselves. And that's why I was asking Mindy about this exact, as you remember, Jane, I went over to talk to Mindy, who was president for another app, and asked her for her opinion of all this. And she said, well, my opinion is we wouldn't take this guy as a client.
Right.
Because we don't want to fight this kind of battle. Jim, you're absolutely right about but by the way, the whole city is telling these stories. The whole city is telling the stories about the same kind of things. It's not just Cheshire Bridge. It is Cheshire Bridge, but it's common. And that, I would argue there's a problem with the License Review Board. And that one of the reasons I want us to be tight about it is I am trying to be harder on neighborhoods, including ours. But when we show up, I want to have a hell of an argument.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah,
We went with Morningside down to argue about their master plan, and they did a fine job of arguing. And they lost 4-1, but actually, as Debbie will tell you, when you get one vote out of the damn BZA, especially when it was a new person, it was astonishing. And so we had a good argument. I don't want to argue stuff we're not going to win on. We know we're not going to win on it. Then let's go change the code. But otherwise, let's win when we argue. Let's win, and let's have a hell of a shot at it. I'm for it.
I see Kyle Kessler sent us a relevant section of the city code.
What did it say?
Under the Zoom, the chat.
Yeah. Well, let me look.
Doesn't get in. So hi, Kyle Kessler. It doesn't get into the details of who the agreement is with, and presumably it depends upon the property. Whether or not there's a management company, if it's LAS parking or linear parking, you probably need to get an agreement with them beyond just the building owner. But the ordinances aren't clear as to who that arrangement needs to be with. There just needs to be some plausibility that it's valid.
But that's probably reasonable, right? You could delegate those powers to a management company very easily. Many people do that, I think.
Yeah, Kyle, there is a section of the Muni Code under the neighborhood commercial overview section
Yeah.
that says that shared parking is allowed
and there's some other verbiage, but it's signed by the property owners. It very specifically says property owners.
Yeah, and is this the one you're referring to? Is it in that type of zoning classification, or are you just more?
Yeah, it's a NC5.
Okay.
The NC5 does not specify anything about parking, so you would go back to the overview.
By the way, Jim, I mean, just to make a point about this that Aaron always made to us was he always used to say, don't use parking to achieve your planning goals. You know, I'm not saying, he's not saying ignore the requirement either, but he's saying if you don't have a parking problem, then don't try to argue that you do so you can stop a business you don't like. It won't work. You won't succeed. You look petty. You don't convince anybody, and ultimately you don't convince yourself. And that's why we dropped that argument in Virginia Highland. We don't have a problem at the moment for the last year, and so it's not worth the fight. That's all. But but believe you me, I'll put our personalities in Virginia Highland, our negative personalities, up against anybody's. If we want to have a piss off contest, we can hold our own. I'm telling you, we got some silly owners, but you know, we have some great ones too, but that's the way it is. I mean, anyway, let's find out what the requirement is. Jane, I really would ask him. Just ask him, show me you're right. Tell him that if he's right and he can convince you, you'll recommend that we drop the parking agreement. And if he can't convince you, the other side of that question is we're going to go ahead with it. And I still argue you can't count the same space twice at the same time. Shared parking's great, but not at the same moment. I mean, come on, that's silly. But
Yeah,
anyway.
Rich, I don't know if you looked at the properties. Are those the same places where Allure is parking their cars?
Yeah.
No,
It's not.
no, not that I'm aware of.
We don't know.
I really don't know. Allure has a lot, you know, in back of its, back of the building itself, and it valet parks there. I don't know of Allure parking anywhere else. It would be pretty far down the road for Allure to park. I don't know.
They were parking over at CVS.
You know, they were parking on, you know, over at CVS, but they weren't doing it with anybody's permission.
Oh.
I don't, and they were parking on the streets, you know, in our neighborhood. Now they can't do that between 12 and 6. So besides its lot, you know, just in front or back of the building, whatever you want to say, I don't know if it has any valet parking anywhere. I just don't know.
I would say that at the time, this is Dorothy. I've been listening to this whole thing and not saying anything, but I would say that the parking on Cheshire Bridge, unlike Virginia Highland, is at a minimum. There's parking for like the Thai restaurant. They park over at the
Kong's and Fabric.
Kong's Auto Body fabric store. And people have to walk across the street because there's no other parking. People are not allowed to park in the building that is next, that pharmacy or city pharmacy or whatever it is, that's next to Little Bangkok. As my understanding was the car wash was one of the places that these guys got an agreement with.
Right.
But I don't know what the other ones are or were. I can, you know,
Well, we have the leases, and it's one of them is that Latino market. I know there's 6 or 7 places. I think several of the adjacent businesses gave them permission or on the lease. So there are scattered locations which are like across the street or on the same side of the street, not far. But as far as Allure, I don't know.
Okay.
Well, if you have a parking problem, then it's worth paying a lot more attention to. It certainly is. By the way, the tacos if you're talking about Acapulco, they're terrific. You ever eat there? They're really good.
They are pretty good.
They are $1.75 or something. They're a different price every time I go in, but they're great.
They see you. They know a gringo when they see one.
Yeah, but we keep getting a huge bag for $8. It's ridiculous. Anyway, they're great.
Well, if you say thank you, that's one price. If you say thank you, please, it's another price.
Those
You
the
say,
ladies at the back that
yes,
fix it are
it's
so
another
sweet. They're really sweet ladies. What I really want to do, Rich, which I don't know, is I don't know, my Spanish is not good enough to order the plates that are coming out of the
You'd
kitchen.
have our grandchildren come and help you. They speak
Yeah, have
fluent.
Olivia or Rebecca help you.
Well, bring Rebecca over. I trust her. Hey, Dorothy. Yeah, send her over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ask her father.
I'll pick her up and bring her back. She can go with the strange man to buy Mexican food. All right. Well, thanks a lot. Good luck, y'all.
Night.
Thanks,
Take
Jack.
care.
Thank you all. A virtual hug to all of those that participated
Hey,
tonight.
Debbie, this went so well that I think it's
I
got a
know.
great future. I think it's got a great future.
Yeah,
If you
and
have a screen share.
it just in case I'm not here on some of these other meetings, I did manually mute a few people during the meeting who kind of had noisy mics, and I didn't think they intended to be talking, just to kind of prevent it from interrupting the meeting. Probably about 10, maybe a dozen. So in this type of scenario, that's pretty much to be expected.
Well, aren't you clever?
So do you know how to introduce music into this? We needed it for our trivia game the other day, and I couldn't figure out how to.
Well, there
we got
is
the
such
pictures in. We couldn't get the music in.
Well, not on Zoom that I know of. If you're on a streaming service like Spotify, it's pretty easy. You can, they provide the capabilities to sync, but I think I've tried to do it on Zoom.
So if I join Spotify, I could link to Zoom.
I'm not sure. I've on separate apps, but
Okay.
I haven't tried to do Spotify and Zoom at the same time. Usually it's.
Hey, Patrice speaking here. So I also teach fitness classes. And so if you connect like your iPod and you can share the same way you screen share documents, you're also able to share audio. And so the music plays perfectly through Zoom for everyone to hear.
Awesome.
There you go.
Yeah.
Learn something
So
new every
it's on
day.
the screen share and look for the audio option to share.
Well, you notice how many more people we had than normal here. So this is really easy to
Agreed.
come when you
Absolutely.
can sit at home. It really is. So
Absolutely.
thanks a lot, everybody. Good luck, Jane. Let me know if I can help. I don't know what I'm good at telling other people to do more work, but I mean, let me know.
Well, I think Doug committed to getting back to us on that. That was what I heard anyway.
Okay. Good luck.
But thank you.
I'm all for you. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Jim, thank you so much. Jane, thank you.
Thanks for the
Thank
help,
you.
guys.
Take care.
It was great.
Thank you. This has been fun.
Yep. Thanks, Debbie. Good to see you.
Thanks for being here, Kyle. Appreciate your help and the reference to the Muni code.
Yep, no problem.
Debbie?
Yes.
Hi, Patrice here. I think one thing that Sean was saying, as you being the host, you do have the option, I believe, when you set up the meeting or even when you start it, so that you can mute everyone. And it might give you, usually gives you the option to mute them and allowing them to unmute themselves if they need to speak. Or mute them and not allow them, which I guess at this point you would allow them to unmute themselves because people do need to participate at sometimes, but you can actually control everybody's mics that way, because even if they cough in the background, their picture pops up and overrides almost the other person who is hosting. So that's just about, I think it was a good one. It was a good job, but yeah, I use Zoom on a regular basis for my classes. So you got to quiet all the students who participate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's good to know. I'm still learning. This is the first time.
Yes, it is a learning curve for all of us. Yeah, and you can incorporate this into Facebook Live, which sometimes I need to do. So it is a learning curve.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So So thank you, and I guess I sent you some emails, and I know time for you to bring it down, so I will check with you tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you,
Okay.
Teresa.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I am leaving the meeting. Where am I leaving, ending the meeting?